surfnvs.com. NVS fins is what you want to ride in your surfboard.
That's right. I was just going through my big box of fins. My son's going to Nicaragua, and we were digging through the fin box to get him set up. And man, I've got quite a selection of really nice NVS fins, and I'm grateful to Jamin and Leif for the wonderful fins that they provide. And of course, they've got a booth at the Boardroom Show coming up here in October. I mean, it's what, 5 months away, but they've got a prime spot. So, what a great opportunity to talk to those guys and learn more about the types of fins they make and the process and everything. So, check them out at the Boardroom Show for sure.
Well, the Apex Series fins made out of the G10 laminate are guaranteed for life. So, I mean, I've never dinged a fin or one of those, and so I've never even needed to replace them. But it's kind of a nice comfort because then you can you can amass a collection like you have, and they last forever. And I kind of end up riding the same ones for the last few years. But if you do get a new surfboard, you can go back through your old sets of fins and maybe have the perfect solution. So, really
Well, let me
great
say this.
product.
Let me say this about those too is that there's a couple sets that I really love. By the way, I've been riding all sorts of different boards, and I had that epiphany where I was like, okay, you know what? There's only really a couple boards that I love, and one of them is the Ryan Seiko Saber. So I dug out my C drive fins. So the C drive fins, the twin fins, are my total go-to for my Ryan Seiko Saber twin fin, the round pin. It's 610. The other fins that I absolutely love, they're super loosey and spicy, are the Taylor Knox large twin fin, the arc fin that has the tip cut out. Those ones really provide a noticeable looseness, which I like on a little narrower tailed, thinner tailed twin fin.
Okay. Yeah, the C Drive twins are my go-to for the twin, and then my arcs I use for the thruster. I almost don't change those out if I ever ride a thruster. So, anyways, get yours surfnvs.com. On Instagram, I think it's Naked Viking Surf. And then, of course, realwatersports.com for any and all of your other water sport needs. Of course, 1,500 surfboards in inventory. They carry that Ryan Seiko Saber that you love so much. So many of the interviews that we've done, both on the Boardroom Show and Surf Splendor, those shapers are carried at Real Water Sports. So,
Yeah, Real Water Sports. Check them out for all your surf travel needs as the springtime fades and the summer kicks in.
yeah, accessories, board bags, clothing, everything. Realwatersports.com.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, Guy, David. Yeah, Guy. It is Spit, the Spit podcast. And of course, David Lee Scales and Scott Bass with you. We talk all things surf here on the Spit podcast. We're just spitballing, we've got some things to say. Occasionally we go off topic and discuss other things like Maldonado salt, or whatever it is. And who knows what's going to happen here on the Spit podcast. Good morning, David. It's May 14th.
Good morning, Scott. It's all tangential to surfing, I feel. Existential quandaries, the fuel, like the salt that we eat to go provide our surf sessions.
Speaking of that, you know what I did last night? I went to a comedy show. My wife and I went to a comedy show, and that's something that isn't in the normal on the normal schedule. So that was kind of interesting.
Who is the comedian?
I mean, there was like three of them, right?
Mhm.
So the one Andy Hendrickson he was really pretty quite funny. I enjoyed all of them, but Andy was the headliner and deservedly so.
I love a comedy show.
Have you gone? Do they have comedy shows where you live?
Yeah, there's definitely, it's become, I mean, the last 10 years have become a lot more prevalent, I feel. It was kind of a niche thing for a long time. Um, but we don't go often. I'd say we end up once a year, it'll be like some social, somebody's birthday and they want to go or something like that. But the single best, I've seen a lot of like the greats, like I've seen Cosby before he got
I saw Cosby.
busted.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw Cosby. He was on, and he was so good.
I actually saw him in San Diego.
I saw him in
So,
Vegas.
oh, okay. Um, the best, that single best that I've ever seen was Jerry Seinfeld. Seinfeld, like post Seinfeld, after he, for those who don't know, like once he finished the series, which was probably 1998-ish, he threw out all of his act. So the act that he had been crafting for 30 years, he threw it out and started from scratch. And there's actually a really good documentary made about that process. It starts with him doing open mic nights at the Comedy Cellar in New York, where he didn't even have 5 minutes prepped. Like he's up there fumbling, and people are like heckling him, literally. And it goes through the process of him developing a 90-minute act and then finally playing, some big venue. But once he got that act kind of sorted out, he came through Long Beach, and I saw him at the Terrace Theater in Long Beach. And just to give you an idea, he walks out on stage. He just looks condescendingly at the crowd. The whole crowd's cheering, and he's just like shaking his head no. He's like, Long Beach. Your beach is no longer than anybody else's. It continues on to Huntington Beach on the other side, and then a different beach on that. It's no longer, all beaches are the same length. And it was just like, it was so good. It was literally like no cussing, no self-deprecating, like making fun of himself or anybody else. It was just quality comedy for like 90 minutes straight. It was really, really good.
That's great. And Jerry Seinfeld is on tour right now.
Is he?
Yeah. In fact, he's coming to San Diego sometime soon, and he's on tour with somebody else. I can't remember who, but yeah, look, just Google Seinfeld, it'll pop up.
He's legit.
Like I mentioned, I saw Cosby in Vegas, decades ago. But I also saw Don Rickles in
wow.
Las Vegas, and it was insane.
Really?
It was everything you imagine. Just Rickles just ripping people. You do not want to sit in the front row. He's like, "You, sir, what's your name?" He's just
and crass though, right?
super gnarly. Pre-PC. This was probably 1986 or something like that.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Yeah, comedy. You're right. Comedy it's a great date night option.
Yeah.
So good. I wanted to ask you follow up to your Prodan conversation. How did that go? And one of the things you said you wanted to get to the bottom of is why they were cutting the field back for the 10th and 11th event next year and then adding them back at Pipe. Did you have an explanation for that?
He did. Now you're going to have to forgive me if I don't. What I would suggest you do is you listen to the podcast. But
perfect.
I will say this, that I got some feedback on Instagram that perhaps I didn't, I don't know, drill down enough or possibly
softballs.
Yeah, softballs. Maybe I fed the wheel of positive noise. I don't know, but I didn't. I just went into it just talking. I didn't have an agenda, but I wanted to find out what was going on with what they thought. And so to answer your question about those two events, 10 and 11, the feeling is that after 9 events, if you haven't made the cut, then you're not allowed to go to 10 and 11, but you're still allowed to qualify for the next year's tour by doing well in the Pipe Masters. So basically the cut is after 8 or after 9, then there's 10 and 11. If you've made the cut, you can go on and even further secure your spot. Or there's one more roll of the dice for you because the Pipe, oh, by the way, they got the IP for the Pipeline Masters back. So for the Pipeline Masters, because it's such a powerful event, like you said, like the Masters, like it's one of the best it is the best event on tour. They wanted to let everybody that was on tour that year have a chance at 1, securing the Pipeline Masters title, or 2, qualifying.
Yeah.
So it's one last chance to qualify. I don't know if that helps explain it a little bit.
Okay. Well, how did you feel about the conversation in general?
I thought it was good. Most of my podcasts, I kind of go, maybe I could have done. There's a lot that maybe I left on the table that I don't know. You know how it is. You're like, it wasn't the greatest one. But actually, the Dave one was pretty good. The Dave Prodan one was pretty good. There have been some that are just like, okay, whatever. But yeah.
Do you feel buoyed about the tour and optimistic about 2026? And
well, Look,
beyond.
frankly, I went into it telling him, look, I'm extremely excited about the changes for 26. I think all surf fans are generally excited. I know you are more excited than you perhaps would be if, I mean, they got rid of the final five. You know, they're back to cumulative points as the champion. They've weighted the Pipeline Masters. They've got the pipe back in December. They also have the pipe permit for January, which is floating around, which
Mm,
I asked them about. I think that they probably want to offer that up, I guess, maybe for so that the pipe, you know, that old Vulcan Pipe Pro event, something so that the pipe regulars have a chance to shine that won't be able to surf in the Pipeline Masters. Um,
okay.
yeah, it seems I don't have any other gems to pull from right off the top of my head, but I thought it was a good conversation. I did ask him about, you know, the WSL and their response to Sophie Goldschmidt trying to take over USA Surfing, which I found, you know, that's a pretty fascinating thing, right? That
Yeah.
they have $65 million in their bank account and USA Surfing has 600,000. They have 100 times more money to help nurture surf athletes into the Olympics.
Meaning Sophie's organization has the
Yeah,
more,
US
and
skiing
USA
and
Surfing has the less.
yeah, US skiing and snowboarding. Now, again, that doesn't mean it's a better thing, but certainly they have the ability to go, hey, we're going to take some money from J. Crew that gave us a bunch of money to sponsor skiing and snowboarding. We're going to put you guys in really nice looking clothes.
Well, I think it's more than that. It's
It is.
trainers, training facilities,
Yeah.
nutrition, dietitians, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
But
get
I'm not here to knock USA Surfing. You know, and Dave made a good point. They've done a good job. If you looked at USA Surfing, you wouldn't say, oh, they're 100 times less good at putting together a solid Olympic team. You know, I don't think that's the case. I think they're doing a good job as well. But like I said, you know, the Olympics is a money game. IOC wants, you know, organizing bodies that have got their fiscal situation in order.
yeah,
And US skiing and snowboarding has that. You
yeah.
know, she has relationships with big time corporations that perhaps is hard to get for USA Surfing unless you install somebody that already has those relationships. You pay them up front, and then you know they go golfing, and boom, a deal is secured.
It's interesting. Whenever these most recent, the last decade of CEOs that come through the WSL, my question with every one of them has been, are they using this to leapfrog in their career? Because it is a distressed asset. And so if they're coming from like climbing the ladder elsewhere, and this is an opportunity to work for a smaller company, but potentially 10x it. And so that's a enticing thing. And Eric Logan, that was my concern with him all along, was kind of like, where is he going to be in 5 years? He's going to use this to leapfrog to go work for, Amazon streaming or Netflix or whatever it is. And that didn't pan out. But Ryan Crosby's kind of had the same trajectory in his career. And it looks like Sophie Goldschmidt actually has done this, where she came in. She didn't right the ship necessarily for the WSL, but she at least identified what the weak spots were. So when she leapfrogged to a new, better job, and now has the cash in pocket, she can look back at the distressed asset and say, hey, we can still come in and do good with that and also, better our business where she's currently at. She's obviously not buying the WSL and revamping it, but she is still getting involved. She still sees surfing, the potential in surfing and the potential to 10x a portion of it. So kudos on her. She sounds
It's
like a
funny.
winner.
I kind of look at it, and I don't have anything to base this on, but I kind of look at it like she's met with her U.S. skiing and snowboarding sponsors. J. Crew is one of them. I'm sure they have a bunch others. And those sponsors are going, Sophie, this is great. You've got this incredible demographic of young, vibrant athletes, these young skiers and snowboarders. We love them. We want to use them to propel our image and our product to the masses. Do you have others in this demographic? And she's like, I think I know where there are some, and they're super healthy and they're tanned and they surf these incredible waves like Chopu. Let me go see if I can get them for you. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
almost feel like it's that ask. Like, let's just go vertical. Like, I've got this demo of young, super studly athletes in the ski world. Where are there others that I can tap into and just do the vertical so that J. Crew can just go boom, 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 boom.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's an impressive CEO.
Yeah. I'm actually a fan. I know that, I didn't try to poo-poo her at all. I was just like, this is happening. Like, I'm just reporting on the facts. Like, this occurred. She approached the Olympic people. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
And it might even be, quite frankly, that the Olympic people were like, hey, if there's anyone out there that can help this, and they didn't use the phrase distressed asset, which is USA Surfing, but can help this, let us know. We're open to it. Like, and
Yeah.
let's have a meeting.
Interesting.
But we'll see.
Well, we've got the Burleigh event wrapped up. Lots of conversation there. 100-foot wave is currently in the middle of season 3 on HBO. And Margaret's is coming up. Stab High is coming up. Lots of stuff going on. Where should we begin?
Well, I have a who said that, and
Let's do it.
I do have a best final ever. I don't think so. I don't
No,
think
heck
so.
no. No.
Some people are calling it the best final ever.
If you were on the beach, I'm sure it was thrilling, but
I'm
no,
sure it was. I'm not saying it wasn't great.
definitely.
Anyway,
I mean, it doesn't even come close to Pipeline Finals, um,
well, I know
Chopu Finals.
I
Like,
have the best final ever.
oh, okay,
I
okay,
have I have prepared the best final ever.
all right. Tease
Okay.
it.
Well, here's the deal. Who said that? I've got a who said that. Are you ready for this, David and listeners?
I'm gonna try my best.
I'm gonna quote a cultural icon of sorts, and you're going to
Ooh,
determine which one it is.
you've
Okay.
said too much already.
Maybe. Who said that, David? Inevitably, they asked me, what is surfing all about? Blah, blah, blah. I got so tired of answering that I just told them, people that do it, people who surf, you don't have to ask them that question. They already know. The rest of you poor bastards are never going to know, and I feel sorry for you. It's not packaged like steak. You don't get it at a bar. You either surf or you don't.
Mickey Dora.
Is it one, Mickey Dora, two, Tube Steak Tracy, three, Greg Knoll, or four, Jerry Lopez?
I'm actually gonna go Greg Knoll. I'm gonna change from my first guest, Greg Knoll.
It is Greg Knoll. It is Greg Knoll. But it did sound like Mickey Dora. I don't blame you for thinking Mickey Dora.
Well, good. I
Yeah,
feel good about this one.
Greg Knoll said that. I don't know. Do you have this Taschen book called Surfing?
I don't
Let
know.
me show you this book real
It's
quick.
too rich for my blood when that thing came out.
It's friggin' heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's impressive. I remember that.
And
Yeah, what is
this
that?
book,
9 pounds?
this book is filled with
It's
probably
almost
it's probably
poster sized.
it's 25 pounds.
25 pounds. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's
Rick
got
Griff.
it's got a lot of cool stuff. I got that quote from this.
Okay, very good. Um, yeah, I feel like that book was like $350 when it came out.
Yeah,
Something
it was
along those
pricey.
lines. Yeah. Great
You
book
know,
though.
yeah.
And very
So
good.
yeah, Greg
Well,
Knoll, who said
Greg
that?
Knoll. Greg
Mhm.
Knoll, important figure. We don't talk about that often, actually.
He's incredible. There's so many great, like Tube Steak Tracy. What do you know about Tube Steak Tracy? I
Not
used to
enough.
surf against his sons in longboard contests in the 80s. They were characters.
Did you throw in him as an option because of the reference to steak?
No, I was just trying to think of like old kind of salty dog types,
Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I should do a little Tube Steak Tracy dive for the next show so that people know about Tube Steak. But he was basically the figure that the Gidget series made. What was that the character's name that was on the beach at, it was like the Big Kahuna or something at
Yeah.
Malibu. And Tube Steak Tracy literally lived in a shack at Malibu in the 40s and 50s. and he was the guy. He was like hanging out, and they were surfing and partying and telling stories and playing guitar and doing all the stuff that frankly kids still do to this day at Malibu. They live in as big a shack as the city of Malibu will let them build.
Well, a van, I think, is the equivalent now.
Like trust funders in a van in the
Or
parking lot.
or a crappier version of a van, you know.
Well, just up the point from the lifeguard tower, there is that crew of guys like Trace Marshall, that whole crew of dudes, and it probably changes. It's probably not the Marshalls anymore. It's probably somebody younger. At one point, it was like Josh Farber on those, and they would do their damnedest to like build some sort of tent out of sticks and their beach towels, to the point that it wasn't quite a municipal violation, but they were bordering on, they could be hidden in there and do their little dance in there, whatever they did.
I don't know if they're dancing in there, but yeah, I get
Well,
what you're
it's a
saying.
figure of speech.
Um, yeah, I had another thought and I can't. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say you were surfing against Tube Steak's son. Greg Knoll's son, Jed Knoll, is a board builder in San Clemente still. So last time I saw him, he was at Loner Surf Club right next to Album Surfboards, and they're glassing some of Album's boards and other stuff there too. But yeah, Jed is laminating there and maybe sanding too. So
Speaking of album surfboards, did you see the footage of William Alati on an album ASIM? I think it was 5.6 or 5.7 in macking Kandui left. I
ooh,
think it's recent footage. I know that he did it last year as well, but I think there's recent footage I saw on Instagram.
I think you may be wrong here. This is
Oh,
a Ryan Lovelace ASIM.
oh, okay, you're right. Maybe it's
Yeah,
Ryan Lovelace. I thought it
he's
was
been writing Ryan's boards.
That's right. It was a Ryan Lovelace asymmetrical. It was like 5.6 or something.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So very good. Well,
Speaking of ASIMs, best in show, wooden accents, meaningful symbology. The Boardroom International Surfboard Show is there's a call for entries for all surfboard builders. If you're a board builder, hobbyist, or professional, whatever it is, we don't care. We want you involved. All we ask is that you build a fish, you consider adding wooden accents, whatever that means to you, and meaningful symbology, whatever that means to you. And there's cash and prizes. It's a great opportunity, and it's a really fun exhibit and event. The Best in
phenomenal,
Show at the Boardroom Show, presented by US Blanks.
phenomenal event. Actually, come on out October. Let's do another sentence or two on Ryan Lovelace because I was just thinking you're right to mention the William Aliotti stuff because Lovelace traditionally, for the last decade that we've been doing this, has been making alternative style boards, but not high performance boards. We see a lot of good surfing on them, on the boards that he was making, but not necessarily high performance. But in the last year, he won the electric acid surfboard test with obviously Dave Rostovich ripping on them. Then that William footage for the last couple of years has been really incredible and a diversion from what we saw Ryan making in the past. And Michael Ciamarella on Stab Magazine does surfboard reviews, and he, I think, in his most recent review, is reviewing a Lovelace ASIM as well. So banner year for Ryan Lovelace.
Yeah, good for him. He puts in the hard yards for sure, and
Has been, yeah.
has a planer in his hand and knows how to shape a surfboard. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, good for him. Good for Ryan. And he's also, by the way, won the Icons of Foam at the Boardroom Show. And I want to say maybe 2016 or 2017, something, when we honored Jerry Lopez.
Yeah,
Ryan Lovelace
maybe.
won that shape off.
Yeah, really impressive and great businessman too. Like the way that he's bifurcated his business into Trimcraft and then the Love Machine side of the business really has. I've been really impressed by the way he's managed all that stuff. So kudos, Ryan Lovelace.
Yeah, good stuff.
Well,
What else do you got here, bud? What?
You want to talk Burleigh or you want to talk 100 foot wave?
I don't have anything on 100-foot wave, so let's talk Burleigh, and then we'll let you discuss 100-foot wave. But so the Burleigh event happened, and frankly, it had that sort of arena vibe to it, where the beach was packed with Gold Coast surf fans, and there was this incredible heat. Julian Wilson marched through the event as a wild card, and eventually went face to face against the Lion, Filipe Toledo.
The Cowardly Lion.
Oh my God, you said it, not me. The thing is that I just don't like it when a lion only roars when there's like a massive, massive wave in front of him. Like
Exactly.
When it's 4 foot Burleigh heads, you don't really roar. You just kind of like swat at it like it's a bothersome fly around your ear. But anyway,
The cowardly lion, not to like really stick the knife into the winner of the event,
yeah.
but it's a perfect analogy. He literally has a lion tattooed on his chest, and he won't go at pipe and chopu.
Anyway, Julian Wilson met Felipe in the final, and frankly, it was a good final. And I think part of the reason why is there was a lot of waves surfed. It felt like there was a lot of waves rolling in, as is the case on the Gold Coast. We're looking at, 10, 11 second interval swell, wind swell, a bit like solid wind swell. And the guys were ripping. Julian was ripping. Felipe was ripping. There was full on aerials. But you did sense because of the crowd, I guess there was a bifurcation between the Aussies and the Brazilians. They were screaming and yelling. They were going back and forth. There was fans on both sides of the equation. And these guys were feeling it. They heard it. They felt it. There was a real sense that this was a kind of a boxing match.
People, like you said, are claiming this is the best final ever, and it was the most competitive final that I've seen in a long time for those reasons, where the crowd is definitely involved in the exchanges. There was this instance where Julian needed a score and he surfed a wave to what he thought was the score, and then he flipped off Felipe's uh, group that was chanting Felipe's, name, or what, I don't know if it was the name or not, but they were all chanting for Felipe. And
Lion, they were chanting, lion, lion.
So I understand the excitement of all of that. The other controversy here is that it was a closely contested final, and there's about 50% of the people on the internet who feel like it went the wrong way. To be clear, Felipe Toledo won the event. He took the event win. 50% of the viewing audience felt like Julian deserved the win. Do you have a thought? Who do you think won the final?
Well, it's funny you asked me this because I was just thinking as you were telling this rundown here. I feel like Felipe won the final. Let's just start there.
Me too.
But what I find interesting is that Stab did this thing where they're like they asked all these people. They asked Mick Fanning. They asked Taj Burrow. They asked people. But what I've come to realize is that whatever Peter King thinks is kind of what I think should be the case.
Did they
Peter
ask
King's
him?
like, of course Felipe won. And I feel like Peter King could just be the head judge. Like, and no matter what he would say, I would agree with him. I'd be like, okay, I think Peter King's probably right.
I have a feeling you don't agree with everything Peter King says
I
because
mean, no, not, there's other stuff, but I mean,
surfing
he
wise,
always
yeah.
shows up with so much conviction that,
Well, I agree. I love that about him because Mick Fanning didn't answer the question. Taj Burrow barely answered the question. They dance around it, you know?
yeah, yeah.
They don't give you a definitive answer. So I appreciate you saying Felipe deserved to win. I feel like Felipe definitely deserved to win. Um, it what the concern, I don't know, I don't have a solution for the judges here, but the concern was that Felipe's first wave, within 2 minutes, he just did one full rotation air. They gave him an 8.33. So the rest of the final was compressed into that 2 point spectrum at the end of the scale, right? So shortly, I mean, within the next 5 minutes, Julian got to 7 something. So he had like a 15.83 total. And now it's like, okay, well, now we're only 7 minutes into the final and we really have nowhere. What if somebody gets a crazy barrel and then does the air, Because those were both just based off single airs. So that's, I think, where a lot of the crux was. But again, I don't have a solution unless we unlock where you can go to 12, because I do feel like those were deserved scores. Those were crazy maneuvers. There was just nowhere to go from there. But um, when you go back and watch those rides, Felipe is faster. I mean, like to a crazy degree, not just like 20% faster than Julian. He is doing these turns doubly as fast as Julian with more power in a more critical section of the wave. Um, it's undeniable. He's just on kind of a different level. Julian looks slow in comparison. And or the rest of the tour, by the way, looks slow in comparison to what Felipe is doing in that style of waves, and certainly on this day. His rotations are faster. It's just all of it is kind of the next degree. So I thought Julian was surfing unbelievably through the event. I really loved, and I prefer him. Like as a surfer, I would want Julian to win, but it's undeniable when you see what he did on a wave and then you see Felipe up next. It's tighter, it's more critical, it's faster. There's more torque and rotation in the turn and the airs, and it's on a more critical section of the wave. It is what it is.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. The one thing I would have an exception with here is power. I don't think he's more powerful than Julian. I think they're probably on par. You know, if you were to look at like, the power per square inch through the turn, but you cannot deny the speed, the spark, the juice, the quickness that you mentioned. All of these things are very easy to see and to discern. I think powerfully, I think they're both powerful,
I
equally
think
powerful.
so. I still stand by it. Like if you just look at those waves in that final, Felipe's power, I feel like is more intense in a smaller space on a more critical part of the wave. I think if you get in waves overhead high, Julian would definitely have more power in Bell's Beach or, J Bay or something like that. But Felipe seems to be able to apply it in these tighter, pockets. But the other thing that I think we need to acknowledge about Felipe is we know what he can do in waves like this, and we expect him to do a certain thing. He outsurfed our expectations at this event.
Yeah, I mean, his speed was just undeniable, as you mentioned. And
His 10-point ride against Alejo.
I was going to say this. You said that he looked better than everybody in the event as far as speed and blah blah blah. I do think there are other Brazilians that are just as sparky and just as quick and just as twitchy, like the Ian Gaveas, the Samuel or Miguel Pupas, even Iago, those those Brazilians, they're pretty quick, twitchy, fast. Julian looked like he had a bit of a dad bod almost. That was kind of the vibe I got. I sensed that Felipe drew an Australian guy that had just been off tour and maybe had a few pints before his heat. Like, and I'm not saying that Julian's overweight or that he's not in shape. I know he is. It's just that he looked that way, especially the difference in speed and quickness between Felipe and Julian.
Felipe is probably 8 years younger than Julian, so I think that is part of the factor there. And again, once you get in juicier waves, Julian will thrive over Felipe for those exact reasons. But I still think that Felipe, while you may be right that Sammy Pupo has a certain fast twitch muscle fiber that's similar to Felipe, it's not as comprehensive as Felipe's. Felipe's got all of it in one, you know? And so nobody is nearly as consistent and comprehensive as he is, especially in a competition format. So I just thought Felipe, we can discount him for a number of reasons, but when the waves are like that, we expect him to maybe win the event. I think he elevated beyond even what my expectations were. When you look at that 10-point barrel to alley oop against Alejo Muniz in the semifinal, I've never seen anybody launch on that type of a ramp. Like it was a doubled up, throaty barrel. The way he got into it was sick. And then he rode it perfectly. And before I would even, as he was exiting, before I would ever expect him to find a launch ramp, it was like as he was exiting, he found the ramp that was like fully doubled up still. And then he landed on the double up too, which is like an insane place to land. It was a video part, and in the middle of competition. So stuff like that he kind of continually does that just, it's why he's in the position he's in.
Yeah, we're at this place with his surfing where we're looking for the transition in the landing, and they're so smooth quite often, not all the time, but quite often he's landing in places that are difficult, maybe out in the flats or, like you say, on a double up. And he seems to be able to transition immediately into exactly what he's going to do next with no hiccups, no problem, no, oh, let me get my feet together. So that's kind of where I feel like I'm at with his surfing is that I'm now looking for the real nuance in the landings and the transition
Yeah.
out of the landing. And that's kind of a good place to be. Like if you're looking for that, because everything else he's doing is just next level speed and perfect
Yeah.
form in the air and all that. So yeah, good. Felipe, you know, interesting guy. Didn't have a chance to defend his world title. Took the year off. That was a couple of years ago, I guess.
It was last
And
year.
last
This is his
year, and
first year back. Yeah. And he's had a
that in
lackluster,
itself is an interesting thing.
it is. And he's had a lackluster start to the year, to be perfectly honest. I have to look
Yeah.
it up right now. But um,
Well, let me tell
yeah.
you this. Let me tell
What?
you this. The final five: Elo Yago, Jordy Smith, Kanoa Igarashi, Ethan Ewing, lurking less than 300 points behind is Filipe Toledo. He's in sixth place. So I'd be, I don't know, do we want to see Filipe Toledo in Cloudbreak?
Oh, I don't.
Not
And
really. I'd rather see
he'll lose
Jack
there.
Robinson.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, Felipe has three ninths this year and one 17th and a fifth place and now a first. So
A
the
first
first really
three to
helped him out.
4 foot, 3 to 4 foot wind swell. Or I mean, he, like if you were to have that event 9 out of 10 times, he'd be like Felipe's the favorite going into it.
Yeah.
What happened, by the way? You've eaten shit. I can see on your arm and on your hand. You have fallen.
You saw
Skateboarding?
my hand too?
Yeah, I saw your hand. What the hell's
Yeah.
going on there?
Um, freaking A, dude. Austin, I was having a race with Austin on his scooters, like those little razor scooters,
Uh-huh.
and the handlebar fully came off. Now, I don't want to point a finger of blame, but Lauren assembled this scooter, this razor scooter.
What?
It's missing the linchpin that connects the vertical bar to the crossbar that you put your hands on. So I was booking it full speed. Handlebar came off. I went, where you're like doing the thing where you're like running, trying to get your feet under the upper part of your body. Could not do it. Was wearing sand flip-flops.
Oh,
Freaking
no.
ripped my feet apart. My arms aren't nearly as bad as my feet are, but it was brutal.
It looks brutal. Is she playing Nurse Ratchet and administering lime juice and stuff like that? What's going on here?
I would love to say, yeah, here's exactly how it went down. I was bleeding out on the street, getting like nauseous.
Bleeding out, bleeding out.
So my big toe
Oh
is
my
like
God.
a quarter of my big toe just flayed,
Oh,
dude, like layers of skin flayed. So I'm like looking down, getting nauseous, and I'm like, Austin, we got to go in. He's like, I want to ride my scooter. And I'm like, no, look, like there's blood everywhere. Let's go inside. I was home. It was just he and I. Lauren was out. I'm like, we got to go inside. He's like, no, just has a full meltdown because he wants to keep riding his scooter. So now he's like fighting me, full tantrum. I'm like, dude, like if I pass out here, you're
did you
alone
say that?
outside in the
Did you
world.
say that?
Yeah, I actually
Did you
pulled
say,
up my,
Austin, there's a possibility I could pass out?
I started filming him because I'm like, this is too much. So I turn my phone on, push record. And I'm like, hey, why are you crying right now? Because I want to ride my scooter. Then I pan down to my foot and I'm like, can you see my toe bleeding everywhere? Like, and look at my arm. I want to ride my scooter. And he's just melting down, dude. So I finally got him inside and was just like, cry all you want inside. I need to like address my wounds. So I get a hold of Lauren. I'm like, hey, grab some supplies on your way home. So she's like, I'm leaving right now. I'm coming. She comes home. She's like, I can't even look at it. Here's all the supplies. You have to administer your own first aid. I'm like, you guys are literally the worst. Like, what? I'm completely by myself in this scenario in the bathtub. Like, it was not good.
Wow. Well, have you forgiven her?
Yeah, there was never any forgiveness needed. It is what it is. In a marriage, you accept somebody for their shortcomings and their faults, and it is fine. Do you have your
So
phone handy?
you admit that there are faults and shortcomings.
Oh, among all human beings, yes.
I'm going to stop trying to get Lauren in trouble.
She's not in trouble. Do you have your
Okay.
phone on you?
I do. Please send it
I
over.
just texted you the photo of my toe.
Let me see this thing. Oh my God. That is disgusting.
Isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I I'm sorry that that occurred. That's never a good thing. And
Thanks.
especially.
It's all superficial, to be honest. Like it stings, but it's not really painful, you know?
Yeah, but it's
Um,
just something that gnaws at you a little bit for a
yeah,
few weeks.
yeah. And you got to keep bandaged up so it doesn't ooze into your bed.
Well, speaking of disappointing, Jack Robinson at Burleigh Heads, disappointing. I think he got like last place, like the worst place you can get, I think.
Yeah, he did.
And he
Total,
dropped. He
and
dropped
he
out
was
of the top five.
well, he was coming off the win, you know, so totally unexpected from Jack Robinson. The Colapinto curse reigns supreme, bumped me out of the survival league, I hate to say.
Oh man, that sucks. There is a second chance survival league occurring, but you got to go quick here. Look, 2 days from now is the beginning of the waiting period for Margaret River. And by the way, the swell looks pretty solid the first 4 days, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 6 to 8. A little bit of spotty wind here and there, but that's to be expected. But they should be running a couple of rounds in these first couple of days. Then there's a few off days, then it gets big again. So there's going to be plenty of swell. Be interesting to see how Filipe Toledo bounces back in 10-foot Margaret River.
Well, he's won Margaret River in the past.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the get in on that second chance survival league. I will be getting in on it. Probably losing really quickly there too, as I
Yes.
usually do, but at least get
Yes.
in there because it's fun. Prizes are a little bit less. I think it's one surfboard and $1,000 instead of three surfboards and 7,000 maybe for the original league, but still get in there while you can. You only have 2 days left. Also, the Heritage Heat was sick. Mick Fanning and Joel Parkinson surfing really, really well. Did you watch that?
No, I did not see that.
So it highlights the Joel Parkinson won. First of all, that's worth stating. Mick surfed incredibly well, but it highlights something that I love to see in surfing, which is this contrast of styles. Mick was so sharp, so precise. He got the first couple of waves, and I'm like, wow, okay, Mick is going to win this thing. There's no chance. And then Joel casually strokes in, gets up, doesn't really pump, doesn't look too bothered by anything, tucks into the sickest little draining barrel, comes out, does the most stylish big wrap. And you're like, wow, it is tactician versus artist, you know? And there's art in the tactical thing that Mick Fanning is doing as well, but it was just such divergent styles of surfing. And you can't fault either one. You can pick a favorite, and my favorite was Joel. Like Joel just looked so casual and comfortable. It was really cool to see, and cool to see him take the win too.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the judges saw it that way too, because I think what happens is that, we see one wave ridden in a heat, all of a sudden a score is posted 7.33, and there's a homogenation of
Yeah.
surfing styles rather than an exploration of the art. So that will be forever something that, of course, we've talked about that at length. But let me ask you this. If I said, look, Burleigh Heads is the stop on the Gold Coast from now on, no more Snapper Rock, especially knowing that the sand has come back, at least in front of the groin. At Snapper, there's footage of Jake Marshall and others getting just ridiculous barrels after the event. That being said, Burleigh Heads with that arena, with those people screaming, with you being able to hear as a competitor the people on the beach screaming at you. Snapper, yeah, some people scamper out onto the little rock, onto the jetty, but it's not like the same arena that Burleigh Heads offers. Is it worth sticking with Burleigh Heads, knowing you're probably not going to get as perfect of a wave, maybe, but you get the arena. That arena vibe is kind of something that I think as a WSL programmer, you're into that.
Waves of the stars, man. No,
Oh, good answer.
good, good Burley is nowhere near as good as good Snapper.
You know what? With that, let's take a quick break and we'll come back. You're going to talk 100-foot wave.
I got more to say about Burley too.
Oh boy, hold on. Welcome back. Yeah, it's the Spit Podcast. Oh, my
Thank you.
dog's just walking in here. What are you doing, little buddy?
Always a welcome addition. So yeah, the Heritage Heat was sick. Caitlin Simmers faltered against Stephanie Gilmore to follow that line of conversation that we had prior to the event.
Oh, that was a great heat.
Great heat. And then Erin Brooks looked like the surfer of the event until she had the shocker against Stephanie Gilmore. But really amazing surfing from Erin Brooks up until that point.
Yeah, I just watched that one heat that you and I highlighted last week, the Steph and Caitlin. And I think that happened the same day. I think the event started that day. And That was fun to watch.
Um,
Caitlin versus Steph.
Betty Lou Sakura Johnson's comeback is great to see. I thought she honestly would have been in the top five always, and she's had a tough year. I think she was coming back from injury, but her showing up at this event and blowing up was great to see her return to form, the form that she had when she got onto tour. So she took the win on the women's side. Gabriella Bryant was the world number one. She lost against Luana Silva in the round of 16, which was surprising to see. But despite that, none of the top five has shifted on the women's side. It's exactly the same as it was before, with Gabby Bryan in first, Caitlin Simmers in second, Molly Picklum in third, Isabella Nichols in fourth, and then Tyler Wright is in the fifth spot. Betty Lou Sakura Johnson, though, moved up 7 spots into the sixth spot, which puts her in contention for the top five. On the men's side, it's drastically shifted. Ethan Ewing is down 3 positions into the fifth spot. Jack Robinson is out of the five, moved down fourth into seventh. Kanoa is up 2, now is in the final five in the fourth position. And Jordy moves up 2 spots into the number 3 spot. Yago moves into the second spot, and Italo stays in number 1.
Well, look, these final fives, they are what they are. The surfers have earned it. The ones that are there have earned it and deserve to be a cloud break. As a fan, I would rather see Aaron Brooks at cloud break than Tyler Wright. And I don't know who we would get rid of from the men's side, but I'd need to see Jack Robinson in there.
I would love to see Jack in there. I want to just kind of finish the Burleigh conversation where we started, which is Julian Wilson. We can't say enough about the comeback story. I mean, even though Filipe had the best surfing of the event, it feels like Julian was actually
Hold
the
on.
story.
Hold on. Let's not frame it as a comeback story. It
Okay.
was one event. Now go ahead.
It is the beginning of a comeback story, which is worth noting. He's been given a wild card into the Challenger Series events. So that happened before this. And by the way, he wasn't gifted entry into this event. He surfed through the trials to earn his spot into this event. So the reason why I'm couching it as a comeback is he stated publicly that he is attempting to make a comeback. Then he got gifted the wild cards onto the CS, so we're anticipating a comeback, but we got a gift of an early entry by him winning the wild card into this event. But you want to keep your expectations low or moderated or whatever, and he through the event set the standard for the event. Like his airs, his huge lofty straight air was the biggest air that we saw in the event. His in the early rounds, the technical like slob grab rotations he was doing were the most technical airs of the event. So he was really, I feel like, kind of the surfer to watch with Filipe on the other side. And, you wouldn't expect that from somebody who's aged out, let's say. So he, I feel like, is the great story. But my favorite moment is a clip that I'm going to play for you, which is after the final. So this guy who did all these things, and he's got a wife and kid at home. After the final, after the sun went down, all the people are mostly gone. He's still wearing his jersey, and he opted to ride his bicycle home from the event in the dark. So that's the clip that I'm going to play for you.
After qualifying through the trials, surfing all the way through his first WSL event in many years, to nearly clutch the victory in front of thousands of adoring Australian fans, ultimate darling of surfing, Julian Wilson decides he's going to ride home from his unbelievable performance in the final. He needs some help from some of the local Brazilian legends to light up his padlock and unlock the thing. He finally clicks it. Looks like he just figured out the code. Are you kidding me? Still wearing the jersey. He chucks a high five. Thank you so much, legends. Ties up the whip. Are you kidding me? After all that, this absolute call lord rides his pushy home after being labelled the legend of Australian surfing. Go in, son, you won that.
Look, the guy's like a local celebrity, and he's just riding his bike home at the end of the day. Stayed later than anybody else. If you are leaving the event, you see somebody wearing a jersey, you're like, who's that guy? Oh, it's the dude in the final who's a local celebrity.
Yeah, that is a cool story and a cool little anecdote for sure.
Love Julian.
And look, we want to see this thing continue. We want to see this thing continue, especially because look, Filipe and Julian have some history as competitors in the past. They've got new history now, new stuff being built, new, and but let me just say this. It's not a comeback story yet. It's a comeback story in the making. which you mentioned, right? This is a brick in the wall. But the greatest comeback story, of course, David, is what?
Aki, Andy, Kelly, any of those
Wrong,
three?
wrong, 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 wrong.
Tell me.
Tom Curran won the world title, had to surf through the trials, not in just one event, every single event. He surfed through the trials, then through the main event, and won a world championship. Now that's a comeback story,
What was he coming back from?
not being on tour.
So was that his third title?
Yes.
So after the first two, he went on the search and then came back and surfed through the trials.
Yes. That's a hell of a story.
That's a story.
Pretty sure Sonny Miller has a movie about it called Trials to Championship or something like that. The comeback of Tom Curran or something like that. Anyway, I could, by the way, quick caveat, I could be wrong on all of this. Do your own research.
Well, I know Tom Curran won a title by doing
Trials,
exactly
yeah,
what
through
you
the trial.
said. And then I also know he has 3 world titles. I guess it wasn't clear to me that that was after he had retired previously.
Yeah, I don't know if retired's the right word, but he went on the search. So
Right, right, right. Yeah, well, so you were talking earlier about the best final of all time.
the best final of all time could be, and this is, of course, just my opinion, but at Chopu, I think it was '05 or '06, maybe it was '04, '05 or '06. Kelly Slater was comboed by Bruce Irons. Kelly needed 2 10s to win the heat with about 10 or 8 minutes left, not much time left. Kelly got 2 10s and won Chopu. And it was something like the total was 20 points for Kelly Slater and 19.98 for Bruce Irons. It was ridiculous how close and how intense it was. I I'm here to tell you I think that might have been the best final ever.
I agree with you. That was unreal. The way that Kelly earned those 2 10s were nothing short of magic. The falling from the sky, landing backwards in the barrel after the drop, and then
No
somehow
hands.
no hands, and then repositioning to get into it was
Yeah.
like unbelievable,
Yeah.
completely crazy. And doing it 2 times in 2 minutes is just insane.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Best final ever. Yeah.
go look. Letting Go was the film I think that documented that final, but go look up that footage.
Yeah.
I'll try to
David,
find it and put it with today's show notes.
I have a quick have you ever. Okay, you ready for this?
Oh, bringing back this segment.
Yeah. Have you ever? This is where I ask David and the listeners in general if you've ever done this thing that may or may not add to the fabric of your life as a surfer. Have you ever been in a paddle race?
No, not like an official sanctioned one.
Yeah, an official
No.
sanctioned, sanctioned by the local competitive. You've never been in a paddle race where you put on a jersey and started at a starting line with your surf mates and the whistle, the horn goes and you run down and jump in the water and paddle to a buoy and paddle up the beach and paddle back to the buoy. You've never
No,
been in a paddle race.
no, I have not.
Do you feel like you would want to do that?
Look, dude, after these injuries, I'm giving up all racing.
Okay. No
I've
more
learned I'm
racing.
not 15 years old anymore.
Okay, you're not a racer. Okay.
Why? Have you?
Sure. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
been
I feel
in
like you have.
numerous paddle races.
Um, yeah, no, I have not. Why? Did something in the Burleigh event spark that thought?
No,
Paddle
it's just
battle?
one of my list. I have a list of have you evers, and this one I thought was one I'd highlight. So,
I've got a few for you. I have a list of have you evers as well that I made like 2 years ago when you started this segment, and then I never addressed them. Um, let's do them in the bonus show. Let's do a
okay,
have you ever bonus show.
we will. Have you
Okay.
ever bonus show?
All right. Yeah. By the way, listeners, join us on Patreon if you want the bonus content. Last week we had Jamie Tierney on to talk about the How Surfers Get Paid series, which he produces and helps edit and stuff. Uh, I love Jamie.
Yeah, he's
Just
great.
no
He's great.
nonsense, straight to the point, has tons of history, like worked with a bunch of people, just tells it like it is. So
Yeah.
really good. Go back. You can listen to that if you go join us on Patreon, Spit Pod. Um, and then we'll do a how have you ever today. Why aren't you watching 100 Foot Wave is my question to you.
I don't have a reason. I'm not actively not watching it. I should watch it. I feel like I think part of me internally is like it was good for one season. Why are we doing more than one season of this? But that's full contempt prior to investigation. I'm sure it's good and I should probably watch it. But you tell me, should I watch it?
Absolutely, you should watch it. And you, to be clear, you did enjoy season one.
Yeah. Yeah, season one was good.
So season two is better. Season three is better yet. Like
Okay.
they've polished and gotten better and at their storytelling and at everything. And it's the best surf content that's out. I mean,
I
it's
think part of it might be that I have a bit of a bias against Nazare as legitimate, not that it's not a big wave spot, but that it's just an anomaly, you know?
yeah.
It's not like Jaws or Mavericks. It's just this crazy thing. And by the way, Laird sort of helped to solidify my bias against it in that how surfers get paid by staff. But anyway, go ahead. Tell me some more why I should. It's good content. It's great content. It's professionally prepared content for HBO.
The
That's that
highest
in it. That says it all right there.
it's almost, yes, professional, but more important than that is artistic. Like the people producing it are artists first and foremost. They're working in a professional environment. So it's displayed professionally, but it's beautiful and sentimental. And I,
You're so ready for a European food tour. I can tell. You're like, I want to go to Nazare and sample the olives and
oh my gosh,
drink the
Nas,
wine and eat the friggin' what is it the Spanish make paella?
yeah, but they're not in
Oh,
Spain.
Portugal, right? Sorry. Sorry, there
Uh,
we go. There's some American naivete, yeah, help me out.
no thanks. I'm
Okay.
just gonna let you struggle with it.
I'm, I'm floundering here. I'm pulling up. Help, help. I'm drowning in my American
Naivete.
naivete. Thank you.
Um, I went to Nazare one time with my mom in 2019. It's the first and only time I've been there. It is a beautiful town. It is
Yeah.
such a cool town. We had
Yeah.
a wonderful time.
Did you go into the church?
Yeah, we did. And we did with the food was very good. It's just a quaint, really, really cool town.
Yeah.
Hiked all the way up to that church and the point. Um,
Did you
there's
have the
a
paella? Did you have the paella?
did not have paella, but had seafood
Okay.
galore and seafood stew.
Is there a Portuguese recipe that the Portuguese are known for?
Stews, they make a lot of stews.
Yeah. Stews.
Sardines.
Stews. That's not beans. We have stews and beans here.
They probably have a name for it. I'm not
Right.
doing them justice, especially
Okay.
since I have Portuguese heritage.
Oh,
Um, yeah, my grandfather's Portuguese, so that's why my mom wanted to go there mainly
oh,
to
cool.
see kind of the family lineage and history. But anyway,
What's your
under
grandfather's last name?
Romaldo,
Oh, very interesting.
I told you in the past, he was born on Kauai, actually.
Right. Yeah, he was poor,
Yeah.
Portuguese. Yeah.
So his parents came over as indentured servants to work the sugarcane on Kauai. So he was born in Kauai and then raised on Oahu mainly. But their lineage is Portuguese.
That's pretty cool. That's very fascinating.
Yeah, but 100-foot wave, okay. I had a certain resistance to it as well. Like when I watch surfing, think about surfing until 5 p.m. And when I shut off, I do not want to go sit on the sofa and turn surfing on, basically, is what it comes down to, right? Um, and you're right. Then it's like Garrett Mack is not necessarily the number one protagonist that I would want to see until I was introduced to this series. And then also Nazare, not the number one spot I would want to see prior to this series. But season one won me over. And so I've been hooked ever since. And so I had these exact conversations. I interviewed the producer of the show and then also Garrett and his wife recently. I'm going to publish that this week. And I explained all that to them, and it's like, to their credit. So the way that it all happened was Garrett and Nicole got this producer, Joe Lewis, who has like this track record of like pretty incredible successes producing TV and movies. They got him on the phone at some point and pitched him like, hey, this is what we've been up to for like years now. Nobody seems to care. Like we've worked with kind of documentary crews, but they don't fully get it. It's an incredible story. Somebody needs to tell it. To this guy, Joe Lewis's credit, he and the producer or the director of the series, whose name is Chris Smith. Chris Smith had just come off of doing Tiger King, which was huge success. And so Chris and Joe said, it's a net, it's rather than trying to shop this around, there's swell coming. We're going to fund it. We're just going to take money out of our own pockets and we're going to fund it. So within 2 weeks, they were at Nazare with a full camera crew and everything and documented months of surfing with Garrett and Nicole. They then took additional resource and edited 6 episodes. So they had a full season before they even shopped it around. They finally took it to HBO and HBO got it instantly. They're like, oh my God, this is incredible. And so it was them, having Garrett and Nicole having that access to that resource and then creating the product without too many cooks in the kitchen. Because ultimately, HBO probably would have intervened if they were involved in the production process. They would have intervened a lot of times along the way or said, can't we just spend less money? Can't we just target one swell and get the same amount of footage or waves or whatever? But because these guys saw the vision and funded it themselves, created the art before the intervention, I think is why the series was so good. And then HBO ultimately kind of gave them carte blanche moving forward. But one thing that Garrett and Nicole explained in that first pitch to Joe was, we can't show too much surfing. If you have a bunch of surfing in the show, people are going to lose interest. The only surfing that we can show are the biggest waves, maybe the biggest wave of the swell, but maybe the top 3 or 5 biggest waves and the wipeouts. And that's it. Nothing else. So it has to be about everything else that's happening. And the surfing just hits the high note and it goes away. Otherwise, people are going to lose interest. And they've held true to that. And I'm like, wow, now going back and thinking about the episodes, you're right. There's very little surfing in them, So
Interesting. I do know that HBO is a tough nut to crack for documentaries. Usually, if you approach them with something you've already crafted, they really want ownership. They kind of have like 3 or 4 documentarians, I think, that they work with. And it's basically like they kind of come up with their own stuff in-house. It's hard to go to them and go, hey, I've got an idea. They're like, okay, go to Netflix.
right. Which, I mean, for all the stars to align for this to come together in the way that it has, I think is remarkable. But Garrett, in the way that I felt Laird had not gotten his due, and shame on me for maligning him and not, and now I'm inspired by him and I want to kind of model my life after his. I feel the same way about Garrett. Just like stuck to his guns, didn't really kowtow to anybody, like just kept doing what he wanted to do for the right reasons, and is now finally kind of getting the appreciation that I feel he deserves. And it's aspirational.
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of Garrett's. He's always treated me real fairly, and it makes sense that 2 alpha males, either Laird or Garrett, would actually be good protagonists to drive a storyline. Like, well, why wouldn't you want those 2 guys that are just out front and, here I am, and so
Yeah.
yeah, good.
Well, the other sales pitch for you, and maybe you can, I think your wife would like this show actually, because I find Lauren likes it as much as I like it, if not more. Like, I'm not picking that as the priority choice. I'm like, oh, we got something else to catch up on. She's like, no, let's watch 100 Foot Wave. I'm like, all right, sweet, let's do it. But the other sales pitch is his wife, Nicole, Garrett's wife, Nicole, is kind of the breakout star of the show.
Yeah.
Because
Cool.
she's the voice of reason, like everybody else is just kind of crazy. And she's just like, these guys are idiots. Like, she's like,
Surfers
wear
are
a
the
helmet.
worst.
Yeah.
Surfers are the worst.
She's like, wear a helmet. Come
Yeah.
put Neosporin on that. Like, let's go to the doctor, like that kind of stuff. And it's much more relatable.
That's cool. She's like the
Yeah.
mother hen.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
that. Is there a history about Portugal in this? Because I'm big into the history of Portugal.
season 1 is more about that. And
Mhm.
it's not about Portugal. It's about the town of Nazare.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they don't really come back to that after season 1. But season 3 features that historic session from Cortez Bank from 2 years ago,
Mm.
where Justine DuPont got, the biggest wave ever.
Yeah.
Just Andrew Cotton got crazy barrel. So all of that is documented in season 3. I think it's episode 3 or 4.
And I did watch season 1 and I did like it. I just,
Yeah.
I felt like, okay, are they crowbarring more seasons in just for the sake of we've got them hooked, you know?
Nope, not at all. I mean, like, they go to Cortez, they go different places, there's
Yeah.
different players. There's 16-year-old kids coming up that whose names you and I don't even know, actually. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So give it a chance. It's really, really incredibly good. Before we go over to Patreon, I want to say my must-see moment presented by Trees Wax is the Mickey Munoz piece that Kyle Boothman produced. Kyle Boothman does this series, I think he calls it Brainwork. Um, Let me just double check on the name of that real quick. But he profiles Mickey Munoz this last week. It's a 7-minute mini documentary. It is called Brainwork. And Mickey's kind of the subtitle for this is How to Surf Till You're 100, because that is one of Mickey's pursuits. But it's just beautiful. Really well done.
He's beautiful. Mickey Munoz is a beautiful human being. Man, he's great.
I interviewed Mickey early days for Surf Splendor, like within the first year or two, and it was kind of funny watching this 7-minute documentary. It's exactly what Mickey and I discussed, just compressed into a 7-minute format. But it's because Mickey has stayed true to his core values for 50 years, beyond 50 years, actually. But it's like, A, there's no bad waves. It's a choice of equipment and your attitude, and that's it. So
Yeah.
there's opportunity every day. First of all, the ocean is restorative. It's the fountain of youth. And he gives these examples of he got a barrel at Desert Point one day.
Yeah.
And he's literally fully believes and states he came out of the barrel younger than he entered the barrel.
That's awesome.
And I believe him, and it is the literal fountain of youth, surfing as a whole, but barrel riding specifically. It's a portal. It's a time
Okay.
portal.
Came out younger.
That's what he said. Do you discount him? Do you disagree?
No, I don't discount Mickey Munoz ever.
Exactly.
And I I bowed down to the joy and the wonderment that seems to come out of his eyeballs. If you look at him in the eye, he's wonderful.
If you could see past the pterygium,
He's
you could
just
see.
wonderful. The years of joy in that pterygium. By the way, I've got
You still got 40 years until you can get his levels of pterygium.
By the way, let me say this about pterygiums. If somebody says we should cut that pterygium out of your eyeball, tell them no. Tell them no, you're not gonna. I had one of my pterygiums taken away, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. For a solid 6 months, 8 months, I was so light sensitive. I had to wear glasses. Remember that?
Yeah.
Were you around then?
Yeah.
When I was surfing, I had to wear I wore 2 different pairs of glasses. The sensitivity to the light was ridiculous. So I'm keeping the other one,
Yeah. Well, wear it with pride.
I guess.
Well, Mickey, so again, if it is the fountain of youth, then you want to engage in it as frequently as possible, daily, preferably. And so it's just a matter of choice of equipment and your attitude. And he says attitude is actually the most important. So, we hear older people talking about having a hard time popping up, getting to their feet in quick order. So he's stand-up paddling mainly at this point, but you can also ride a mat, you can ride a bodyboard, you can ride a hand plane, you can just body surf, just get in the water, And
Yes.
so
Yeah, get in the water.
Mickey's a beautiful example of this. What I also loved is he is running around with his dog on the beach with a selfie stick. And I'm like, seeing a 90, I don't know if he's 90 yet, but seeing a late 80-year-old dude with a selfie stick is kind of funny. But it wasn't to take selfies. It was to put the camera really close to where the water was like shore break was kind of breaking and splashing up, because he was shooting photos of that shore break. Not like Clark Little getting in the shore break, but just getting close to it where it's breaking on the sand. And I was like, and then they show some of the photos that he's captured, and they're really kind of dynamic with the waves splashing up. And I'm like, the idea that he's that old and he's exploring photography is amazing.
Yeah. That's
To
cool.
have like a hobby that you're passionate about that you're going out there and chasing and getting is really, really um, endearing to him, but also inspirational to me of like, keep learning, just keep learning all the time, you know?
I mean, he's got a selfie stick. You've got, one of those scooters. You're exploring things. He's exploring things. Mickey also has the most charming home. He's got like a classic California Capo Beach Doheny like
Cottage.
cottage from 1920 that that probably doesn't even have central heating or anything, and it's just this, and it's grown in, and he's got all these little doodads and knickknacks, and it's just a super cool little home thing that he has there. It's great.
The doodads and knickknacks are from years of travel collected from all around the world, you know? Like you
Yeah.
could see there's meaning in each of those little tchotchkes.
Yes. It's
So
cool.
Mickey Munoz, How to Surf Till 100, presented by, well, my musty moment, presented by Trees Wax. Treeswax.com, of course, petroleum-free surf wax. And then finally, the Surfrider Foundation. You can see the old school logoed shirt right here. But I'm I've been producing a podcast actually with them. We're launching an episode next week about Montauk and the coastal erosion and water quality issues that exist there. And in that interview, or in that episode, interview Liev Schreiber and his wife Taylor. So Liev Schreiber's Hollywood A-list actor who you know from stage and screen, because they live out on Montauk, and really, really great conversation with them. So look forward to that on Surfrider too.
Cool.
Become
Right
a
on.
member, surfrider.org.
Hey, let's switch over to Patreon. If you're a Patreon member, guess what? Bonus action right now.
Come and get it. Patreon.com/spitpod.
If you're not a Patreon member, adios and aloha.